Hey, what's going on YouTube? Chuckles again, making another Diablo 3 video. Today we're going to be talking about the patch that went live today. I just woke up and found out that there is literally a massive patch that came out for today's Tuesday maintenance. So let's go into some of the patch changes, some of the patch notes, bug fixes, so on and so forth. So first and foremost, they go into general. Some of the changes they've made is going to be stellar in my opinion. So first, they increase the radius of strength in numbers. That's the buff you get for having more players in your party from 100 to 200 yards. So you get it more often now, like when you're doing rifts and you split up a little bit, the range has been increased, which is good. Gold find now stacks multiplicatively instead of instead of being added. There you go. The 300% gold find cap has also been removed, which is amazing. So vote kick system has been basically completely revamped. It used to be that you couldn't vote kick somebody until 3 minutes in, 5 minutes in, something along those lines, and now you can do it within 2 minutes. So that's a big deal. Killing a champion and elite makes it to where you can't kick them for 15 seconds. That's no longer the case. They removed that completely. Okay, so Barbarian got quite a few little buffs and nerfs, and we'll talk about them here. A lot of the damage has been changed from physical to cold, and I've noticed that with a lot of other builds too, or not builds, but tunes. They've been switching a lot of stuff from physical to different elementals. So, Rend, this is a pretty cool little change. Rather than rolling for a critical hit, Rend will now calculate an average damage by your critical hit chance and critical hit damage on application and apply that damage evenly. I don't really know what that means, like, exactly while playing. I haven't played yet just to see what that's like, but that seems different. It's no longer RNG based, it's average damage based, so we'll see how that plays out. Again, change from physical to cold on Revenge, Seismic Slam, 10 yard wide, 10 yard long area in front of you, as opposed to along with the cone that it originally did. So basically just increased the range for the Seismic Slam, which is pretty cool. And they buffed its damage from 550 to 620. Cool. Let's see what else. Permafrost got a little bit of a buff, 45% increase, but the slow got reduced. So they want to call this balancing. I would call it a buff and a nerf. Warcry range increased from 50 to 100 yards, which is awesome. I know in my Whirlwind Barb video you saw that I do run Warcry, so this is just amazing. Gets to more players, so they'll be happy. Hurricane changed its damage from physical to cold on the Whirlwind skill itself. Wrath of the Berserker got a couple little different things happening here. Now reduces all damage taken by 50% when you're using Striding Giant, and Ariat's Wail went from physical to fire. Again, another buff, range increase from 50 to 100 yards on Inspiring Presence, which is their passive, which is kind of cool. Relentless now has a buff icon, which is awesome. You don't have to guess when it's going down. It's just there now, which is cool. Crusader got the most changes. I'm not going to go into all of them because this is literally they almost completely just redid the entire Crusader. A lot of stuff has been buffed, some nerfs, but mainly buffs. Like if you scroll through here, 380 to 490 on Phalanx, Hammer of Pursuit 300 to 335. Crack, this is all on Justice by the way. Crack has went from 175 to 275. Just Justice's base damage went from 240 to 245. Iron Skin, its weapon damage increased from 1050 to 1400. Like everything got another damage buff. So Heaven's Fury jumped up significantly in damage. 1260 to 1710 just on base damage. Ascendancy went up from 1680 to 2766, and I run that on my Crusader, so I'm excited to see how bad that beam just comes down and explodes stuff. It's going to be amazing. So basically every skill and every rune they have got a buff. So they're going to be probably viable now. The one thing I was skimming through this and looking for, they didn't change their movement speed still, so they're still going to be running extremely slow. I mean, I guess it is what it is, but that's the one reason why people don't play Crusaders, is because of how slow they are. So, I don't know. They switched their duration for steed charge back to 2 seconds again. They just nerfed that last patch. Now they're reverting it and going back to 2 seconds, which is kind of cool. Let's see what else. Finery, gain 1.5% strength for every gem socked into your gear. That I'm not too happy. That's a major nerf, in my opinion. Oh, look, right here. Never mind. Remove the movement speed penalty for heavenly strength. Hey, they did fix them. Okay. So Crusader, hey, that's a good thing. So now Crusaders can move just as fast as all other classes. That's a big deal. That's a major big deal. So that's a tremendous buff. Demon Hunters, nothing too major, to be honest. Just stuff that more like bug fixes as opposed to patched stuff. Switched Devouring Arrow from physical to cold. That's okay. Armor is now increased by 30% of your dex, so it does give you, for awareness, their passive skill, so that does give you a little bit of a survivability stat for Demon Hunters, which I think is good. Monks, last patch, they didn't even touch them. This time they did a few things. I wouldn't necessarily say they're completely fixed, but they fixed some stuff that was kind of buggy. So a lot of stuff is switching from physical damage, like Rising Tide Crippling Wave is now Holy. Keen Eye from Deadly Reach is now going to Fire. Fixed an issue that preventing the first and second hits from dealing lightning damage, so that's going to be fixed. It's okay. No, I don't really know anybody who uses scattered blows with Deadly Reach though, so who knows. Physical to cold when it comes to strike from behind. Fists of Thunder, again, just changes the elemental damage from physical to something different. I thought this was kind of cool. Every third hit freezes enemies for 1 second when it comes to Wind Blast on Fists of Thunder. That's cool. I don't know. It's different. Let's see. Inner Storm, change from physical to holy when you're using the Inner Storm Sweeping Wind rune. A little bit of a buff here. Impact weapon damage from 473% to 605 when it comes to Wave of Light. I stopped running Wave of Light, so I don't know if that's major or not. I mean, it's a decent percentage. What is it, 128% or something like that? I don't know. Changed it from Holy to Fire when it comes to Explosive Light. Numbing Light replaces the Blinding Light when critical hits freeze enemies for 4.5 seconds, and it deals cold damage as opposed to holy damage. So we'll see how that plays out. The main thing is they actually, and it'll go, when we get further down, it'll show it, but they fixed the Inna's 4-piece when it comes to the monk. So the Inna's 4-piece will now accurately reflect all 4 mantras and give you the correct bases for them. So again, Witch Doctor changing a lot of stuff from physical to poison, physical to cold, reduced the mana cost of Fire Bats, which I think was majorly needed. Unless you have godlike gear, Fire Bats was just way too much to cast, move, cast, move, cast, move. You would be in like no time at all. So lowering it by 75 mana, that's a big deal in my opinion. Boost the damage with Dire Bats and Hungry Bats by a significant amount. The problem is everybody runs Vampire Bats, and now they put the mana right back to 225. So you might see people switching away from Vampire Bats, but maybe not. We'll see. So again, switching some physical to different elementals when it comes to Gargantuan. We got a cold one now and a fire one. Wrathful Protector, replace the knockback effect with a small knock up, which is kind of different, but that will keep them in place for your Vampire Bats, which is kind of cool. So Haunt, jump distance increased to 70 yards. Same thing with this, just like they did with the Barbarian. It will be average damage as opposed to RNG based when it comes to criticals. Still kind of reluctant to see how that works. Horrify got some changes going to it, as you can see here. Phobia got the immobilize effect removed. It's not that big a deal, in my opinion. It's really just not. I'm sure people are going to be throwing a huge fit about it, but it's really not that big a deal. Locust Swarm, again, with this different little change, average damage based as opposed to RNG. So, like I said, we'll definitely have to see how that plays out. Piranhas, they didn't really do much. They increased the weapons damage on, what is a Bogadile? I don't know how to pronounce that. Bogadile, 840 to 1100%, and switched it from poison to physical, which is kind of reversed of what they've been doing with everybody else, switching things from physical to an elemental. But hey, it is what it is. Wall of Zombies, for the Witch Doctor, maximum cast range increased from 24 to 28 yards. 4 yards really isn't that big a deal. It gives them a little more range, a little bit more mobility, changed physical to cold when it comes to unrelenting grip, but again, nothing major. So here's a big deal. Summon zombie dogs. The weapon damage per bite increased from 12 to 30%, so more than doubled their damage of what you're going to be doing with your zombie dogs. So you're going to see a lot more pet witch doctors, which is, there's already an overabundance of them, but I think this will help them out, and a lot more people will be playing them. Passive skills, Fetish Sycophants, now procs on hit rather than on cast, so that's kind of a big deal. If you're sitting there channeling your fire bats, you have to be hitting something in order to spawn your, what are they called? Fetishes. There it is. You have to be hitting something to spawn your fetishes. You can't just sit there, channel it until you have, 3 or 4 of them, then start doing a rift. You actually have to be hitting something. Which, in that case, they changed the percentage. In order to compensate for that, they changed the percentage from 5 to 10% chance of gaining the fetish. I think that balances it out. I think it was kind of ridiculous that you could just literally sit in town and spam fire bats, vampire bats, and get fetishes. Like, that's just kind of ridiculous, especially how hardcore fetishes are now. Like, they hit pretty substantially. So Wizard changed a lot of elementals, arcane to fire, converts all of Archon's abilities to fire damage when you use combustion with your Archon, which is cool to have an Archon fire build. I'm kind of interested in how that works. Right now I'm running a Meteor build with my Wizard, and he is really terrible geared, so I might actually start gearing towards a Fire Archon build, because I just think that would be interesting. Excuse me. So Meteor, this affects me. I play a Meteor Wizard, and Molten Impact area increase from 12 to 20 yards, which is substantial, but it's still not as good as, what's the one, I don't remember the name of it, but the one that drops a lot of different meteors. Smaller ones, but a lot more of them. That's the one I use. Teleport got its cooldown reduced, so if you're a CDR Wizard going for cooldown reduction, you can now basically have Teleport up at all times. It wasn't really necessary, but thanks Blizzard, I'll take it anyway. Wormhole, delay before the cooldown begins increased from 1 to 3 seconds. Maximum number of allowed teleports reduced from 3 to 2. That's kind of a nerf. That hurts us. But with it coming down more often, we'll see. Items, nothing really major. Fixed a couple bugs. Puzzle rings, the goblins have been scouring Sanctuary for better loot to drop. Legendary drop chance doubled. So puzzle ring is actually viable to run. So we'll see how that plays out. The Van Braces change is a little different. The Thorns damage dealt by these bracers will now benefit from your main stat damage increase at a 25% rate, as normal Thorns damage does. And the radius reduced from 25 to 15 yards. So that's kind of a nerf to the Sanguinius, whatever the Van Braces those are. The ones you get out of the caches, I've got like 15 pairs of these and I don't wear any of them. Okay, so let's see what else we got. Class-specific items. Here's where we go into more Crusader items. They get fixed. Legendary Crusader shields now roll with a higher block amount ranges than level 70 magic and rare Crusader shields. That's significant. They used to roll only the exact same, so there would be really no point in wearing a legendary versus a rare, so now there is a point. Let's see. Monk, here we go. In his mantra, bug fixed an issue preventing the 4-piece set bonus from working properly. So now, this works. Gain the base effect of all 4 mantras at once. That's awesome. It's finally fixed. Us monks are extremely happy. Nobody really runs Chantoto's Will or, well, maybe Veers. So we'll talk about the Veers. With the Wizard, the Veers Amazing Arcana, this is their chess piece. Will now choose which element to use based on the player's highest plus percentage elemental damage type. So that's kind of cool. If you're a fire wizard, it's not going to drop with cold all over it, which has happened in the past. Let's see. So all shields got buffed again. To do more than magic and rare shields is what it is. Adventure mode, Horrify Changes now have an increased chance to drop legendary items on Torment 2 through 6. So everybody's always complaining that there's no reason to ever do anything more than either normal Horrify Changes or Torment Horrify Changes doing the bounties. Now there is. Everything is scaled. Lowered the rewards for Hell Rift bounties in Act 4. They did that because, like I made a video on it, everybody was using it to power level to clear the Hell Rift bounty. So that's been nerfed. So RIP. Kadala can now drop Torment only legendary items, which is a big deal. It means you can get your set pieces. That's what I'm assuming. Will now always give you weapon types that your character can equip, with an emphasis on class-specific weapon types. So if you're using a monk, you will get the fist weapons, so on and so forth. You can get those from Kandala now. Crafting, Reaper's Wraps. He now always drops the plan when killed at level 60 or higher if the player does not have the recipe, instead of only on the first kill. That doesn't affect me whatsoever. I've had it since like the day after launch. Legendary crafted recipes no longer require specific common armors or weapons, instead now require common crafting materials. So I saved up the common debris or whatever. I saved up, I think I have something along the lines of 15,000 common debris because I saw this coming. Nobody wants to farm those white items, go to Battlefields of Eternity and try and find them, or try and find that vendor that sells them. Nobody wants to do that. So now we have no reason to ever pick up white items again unless you're just trying to salvage them. That's major. I'm happy as a pig in shit for that. So Sovereign Rings and Amulets now require Marquee Gems instead of Imperial Gems, so that got a little bit of a buff. In my opinion, that's awesome. You don't have to spend so much. Unsocket costs for top tier gems have been reduced, so to take out gems it costs less money. Not a big deal, but it does help us with gold. Mystic, it is no longer possible for the same affix to be randomly selected as the replacement for both of your new rolls. So if you try to re-roll strength into dex, you can't get dex and then something else. It'll just be one dex and then two something difference, which is a good thing because that means you have to re-roll something less times in order to get what you want. Because if you're trying to go for like crit hit chance and you have 2 dexes on the board and then thorns or something like that, even though I know that's not possible, now it'll be only 1 dex, so it gives you more chances to get what you want, if that makes sense. Followers are now available at level 1 in adventure mode, which is cool. Monsters, Chiltera will now spawn more often. I thought that was kind of a big deal. She is one of the it is one of the monsters in order to make the new Staff of Hurting, to get your Hellfire Rings. A little bit of a UI fix. Legendary items received from Kadala will now broadcast to the clan. Not that big a deal. And then they fixed a couple bug issues with just normal stuff, preventing resource cost reduction from being considered when determining whether or not you have the minimum resources necessary to cast a spell. And then fixed an issue that could sometimes use teleport powers to prevent quests from progressing. So that's all of the patch notes. I know this has been kind of a long video and I didn't even cover all of it. I really suggest you go and read the Crusader Changes because there is a lot of them. The Crusader, I think, is going to be very viable in this patch. It's going to be a very good character. I'm glad I have one. In fact, I'm probably getting ready to go play it now. I want to try it out so bad. Look at the bombardment changes, look at the judgment changes. There's going to be a heck of a lot of new builds for the Crusader, so we'll see. Anyway, this is Chuckles. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.